Good evening and welcome to this podcast. Thank you so much for finding time to join me once again. Now, our topic today is quite a sad one. It is about gender-based violence. There are men who like to beat their wives, their girlfriends, their partners. In fact, there are even women who do the same. Gender-based violence is quite prevalent around the world, and sometimes victims take the law into their own hands to end the abuse by committing suicide or even killing the abuser. Now, there's even a darker side to this, that is sexual violence. My guests today, Ilipupu Chipasha and Grace Nachila, are going to share their stories as child brides, how they were physically assaulted, sexually assaulted, and most of all, the mental torture that they endured. Welcome, Ilipupu.
Thank you.
And also, Grace, how are you today?
Good, thank you. How are you doing, ma'am?
How have you been celebrating the Women's Month, March? How have you been celebrating it?
Just in the normal way. Yeah.
Okay, and for you, Grace?
Well, celebrating myself, as
Yes.
always.
Yourself.
Yes.
That's a good place to start.
Yes.
With yourself. Okay, now let us get into today's conversation. It's a very sensitive, and I know that you experienced this firsthand. We'll start with you, Limpopo. Tell me, where were you born?
I was born in Western Province, Zambia.
Which town?
Kaoma in particular. Yes. We lived in a resettlement scheme, which is situated about 8 kilometers away from Kaoma Boma, which is called Kalumange Resettlement Scheme.
So it's quite rural.
Yes, very rural.
Okay, and how many children did your parents have?
In our family, my parents had 9 live children, out of which 3 or 4 died infant's death. So my father had fathered a total of 13 children.
Okay, I see.
Yes.
Okay, and what number are you in the 9?
I'm the second last and the last girl of the family.
Okay, I see.
Yes.
How many girls were there?
4.
4 girls, and you
Yes.
were the last of the girls.
Yes.
Okay. Your parents, your dad, did he just have your mother as a wife? Did he have other wives? No.
My mother was the second wife. My father had a first union where he produced the first 2, our older sibling, a female and a male. And then that's how he married my mother after he failed in the first union.
Okay.
Then from my mother, he had about the other births, giving us a total of 13.
Okay, so it was not a polygamous
No,
marriage.
it was.
You went from one marriage to the other.
Yes.
Tell me about your childhood. How was it like growing up where you grew up?
Growing up, we grew up just like any other person that would grow in a village setup. But we lived in abject poverty in our household. We were, should I say, we were the poorest, because
what does that mean? What does that mean? What were you comparing yourself? In what way were you comparing with your neighbors to say we were the poorest? What do you remember as a child?
I remember our father not being able to just even pay the little school fee that were being charged there, and even just getting to lead a normal day-to-day life was a little bit difficult, because when others were using plows to till their land, we were using our own hands to farm and make all those things doing. So that's what made ours different from the rest of the people that we lived with.
Did you ever go hungry?
Yes, in most times we would. There are times that we didn't really farm where I would only have to have one meal in the whole day. Maybe you only have that meal, maybe past 15 or so. That would be your menu for that day.
And what was that meal? What was it?
I would say it could have resulted from maybe the same poverty and not just really having adequate food.
Yes, but what was that meal? What was involved in that meal? Was it
in
shima?
The meal, it could be shima. Sometimes, if there was enough meal, sometimes you just make thick porridge, which you'd wait when it cools off, then you can use some lerishy probably would be cassava leaves cut up and the like also. Or maybe sometimes most because our maize couldn't reach the other season. So in seasons like maybe November, December, our menu would be the cassava itself and using cassava leaves, cassava and cassava leaves that gave us the whole meal for that day. Yeah.
Did you go to school? When did you start school?
I started school just there, sometime way back, but I couldn't finish in the first line because every person that I
Let's
followed
go back.
couldn't.
Which school, where did you start your grade 1?
I started my grade 1 at Kasimba Primary School, just right there in Kalumwangi.
And you
Yes.
stayed there up to grade what?
I stayed there up to grade 8 and the first term of grade 9. Then that is how I was dropped out of school.
Or because your parents couldn't pay the school fees?
Yes, but the dropping out of school wasn't meant to his inability of paying school. It was as a result of him dropping me out of school so that I can get to be married at that age. Because when I got from primary school, yes, it was difficult because I was a child, I couldn't fend for myself. But now, as time went on, grade 6, grade 7 there, when the rest of my relatives, the rest of my older siblings sat back and waited for my father, who seemingly could not provide for their school needs, to provide for them, I took another 10. I started working in other people's farms, like cultivating, weeding, so that they do not pay me money, but they buy me school necessities so that I can continue going to school. And that set me apart from the rest of the family because I was able to work in other people's farms. That brought me uniforms, that bought me books and pens. So I continued my education, self-sponsored, but my father was alive.
So now you're in grade 9, first term.
Yes.
At what point did you hear this conversation that your father intends to withdraw you from school? How did you hear about that conversation?
That one, I did not hear. It only came in such a manner that how they all did the marriage arrangement, I didn't know, I wasn't aware. I was only put, when this person came, when that man whom I was married to came, and I was told, this is the man that you have to live with for the rest of your life.
How old were you at that point?
I was 15, in my early 15.
You were 15 years old?
Yes.
And one day your father says, there's a man here and he's going to be your husband.
Yes.
And then what happened? What did you think?
Looking at the level of education that I had at that time, I couldn't negate. I looked at my father and all I knew is, this is my father, he cannot give me poison. And now, that from my end was also necessitated because traditionally when you grow of age as a lousy person, you will be initiated into adulthood. That is it's a session which just prepares a girl to, it ushers you into adulthood.
It happens the whole country. In Eastern Province, they call it Chisungu. So you have the same in Western Province.
In Western Province, we call it Sikenge. Maybe the difference would be...
Sikenge.
Yes. The only difference with the Western Province one is, regardless of your age, when you grow of age, the moment you are secluded, you are taught how to keep a marriage. You are taught how to become a mother. So mostly in Western Province, you do not do kitchen parties because all the kitchen party components, everything that a married woman has to be done, is given to you at that age of your menarche. The moment you see your menarche, you are taught how to be a woman. It's just at whatever age, whether you are secluded at 13, at 14, means the moment you are out of that, the moment you are celebrated, you are now ushered to the world as a fully grown woman that can keep a home.
Is that what happened to you? Did you go from Sikenge, then immediately your father said, it's time for you to get married?
Yes.
Is that what all fathers do there, or it was just for you because you as you described it, that your family was in abject poverty?
I wouldn't say it's every person, but in my case this is what happened in my case. But traditionally, The moment a girl grows of age, the moment a girl is secluded, it means traditionally you are ushered into adulthood, and tradition allows it.
Yes,
You are
but
adult.
is this still happening in your village? It happened to you?
It happened to me.
Okay. Now let me ask, you saw this man. Was he your age? You were 15. Was he 17, 16?
No, he was an older man. He was 20 years my senior.
So you were 15 and he was 35 years.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And was he somebody you had met before?
No, it's not some person I had met before. It's some person I met at that time when my issue was being discussed. And then after he paid, then that is how he took me out, like I was his parcel, because after he paid my bride price, that is how I got married off to him. Yes.
And where did you live with him as his child bride? Where did you live with him?
We moved from where I was married off from my father's house to his house in Kauma town. This is the person that was already in employment then. So we had to move.
Where were they
then.
working?
He was working in the army.
In the army?
Yes.
A 35-year-old man, he went to look for a 15-year-old girl as a wife.
Yes.
Were you his only wife?
I was his only wife, but this is a person that I found already with 3 children born from 3 different mothers. Yes.
And did you feel that the Sikenge you'd been through prepared you to be a wife at 15 years old?
Yes, I felt that way, despite until when I got into that home. Because similarly, what I was taught in Sikenge, in most cases did not apply in that home because the scenario in the home was different.
At 15, you are a wife. Were you mentally ready? Did you feel mentally ready to have sex with a man who was 35 years old?
No, I wasn't mentally ready. That's why the sex
What was
part
the
also
experience?
my experience was so bad because what I was taught in seclusion was something else. When I got there in the react, let me open up on the aspect of sex.
And you were a virgin?
Yes,
when you
we
got
were
married?
taught. Yes, we were taught to say there has had to be the preparatory stage of sex, and like in my case, the first time I've had it with him, he forced himself on me. I never had any preparatory form of us to get to engage into sex. So from day one, it was a forcing matter. This is the person that would just force himself on me, which was a very, very painful sexual experience, which I didn't enjoy. Yeah.
And you had children with him?
I had a child with him.
Now, how old is the child?
The child is now going 15.
To 15 years.
Yes.
So this happened almost 15 years ago.
Yes.
Okay. Now, tell me, did he look, apart from the forcing himself on you sexually, did you feel looked after as a wife in the house?
Probably not. Yeah, there were so many areas that were lacking. I would say maybe the care, the upkeep, and the likes were not there. It was a situation where you thought maybe this person would love you in the right way, but he failed to love me in the right way. As a result, I started growing and knowing to say, oh no, I think things here are not right. That is how I thought of doing other things other than sticking
You
to
were in
them.
Kauma, it's a town.
Yes.
You must have gone to the market and so on. And you saw girls your age, 15 years, 16 years, going to school. What was going on through your mind?
What was going on through my mind was like, I made a judgment. I sat within my own cabinet, my self-cabinet, and told myself, I think I'm suffering this way because I do not have an education. Because other than the sexual abuse, the man introduced me to all the 4 forms of abuse. There was physical abuse.
He used to beat you.
To beat me up.
Why would he beat you? He'd just come
Not
home and start
necessarily,
beating you.
Yeah, sometimes yes. Sometimes maybe I haven't answered properly. But in most cases it's because when you look at Kalumangere settlement scheme, I had a relative that lived there. So seemingly this guy just wanted me to be married to him. So each time a relative from Kalumwange came to town, probably I was the only relative that was on Kauma town. Maybe they would want to pass a night there. He would allow them be. The moment they go, then you will be beaten because my relative came and ate the extra meal or whatever. So usually whenever I was visited, the moment the visitor leaves, I'll be left being beaten.
Chipasha has just explained how she was sold into a violent marriage by her father. After the break, she tells us how her husband would strip her naked and beat her in front of neighbors.
So he would sexually abuse you,
And
he would
then
physically abuse you.
And socially also, because his money was his money. Sometimes you send me to go and get paid his money. So neighbors would see, she's being well taken care of, because I would be sent like a child, go and get paid. I would get paid, yes, from the bank, bring the money to him because it was the money on. When people saw me getting the money, they'd be like, okay, this one is not socially abused, the economic abuse is not there. When in the real sense, it was there. Also the mental.
Did you sleep hungry sometimes at your husband's house?
Not really, not because he deprived me of food, but I would go. There are days that I slept on an empty stomach because mentally I was disturbed, like, how could this person beat me? From beating me again, he still want to have sex with me. How do I even get to it? Maybe I lost appetite and also couldn't just find the reason for my own eating. Because in the beating there is a time that he would take me outside, strip me completely naked outside, where passerbys would be like looking at my nakedness. This is the man that is beating you. And in the night again, he comes back and still wants to have sex with you.
He would undress you outside your home.
Yes.
For people to see and then beat you.
Yes. Yeah.
You had just left school. Did the school authorities come looking for you? Did they go to your parents to find out what had happened to you first term, grade 9, when you disappeared from school?
No, they did not. The school management did not, unless if my late father didn't tell me. But in those days, probably I don't really think that they ever did such a thing. They didn't.
And nobody, when the people saw you being undressed and beaten, what did the neighbors do?
Those that would be there, maybe they would just be there. But visibly, I can remember vividly is just seeing children in the garden, like maybe neighbors would be there, and when this is a married husband that is beating the wife, probably some people wouldn't really want to be active bystanders.
It's their own
just
marriage.
Be there, Maybe if people had a phone that would capture, maybe they would just capture, start watching. But who would really come? This is a man beating the husband naked in the broad daylight. The wife, broad daylight, naked. Who would really wish to come? They would rather take a distance and then just mind their own business.
Did you think about going to the police?
In the first place, I really used to think about going to the police, but some other thought used to hold me back, because at seclusion I was taught to say, whatever you encounter in your marital home, those are your secrets. You do not need to share them with even the person that initiated you, because you're a grown-up person, you are able to handle your own issues. Until such a time when I felt I've received a lot of beatings from this man.
Let me ask
I
you,
died.
as a family, did you go to church?
Yes, we went to church as a family. Even in our case, when my being ill-treated escalated, I involved the church. The elders of the church that I went to, I involved them. They used to come home, they would want to talk to us. So sometimes when I call them to my then husband, who's now my ex, they would come home. Oh, mister, this woman has a complaint. They would explain, as I've told the church elder. That man is this person that would just maybe even turn the face against the elders, would face the other
The other way.
The other way, saying, may I use Nyanja in his own words? Bayoda kaino wamene oyo ali na vuto. Kamba naye wamene oyo nzambo mberera.
She doesn't listen.
More than
wife,
5
she's a
times.
problem.
Yes. Wamene oyo kaindi ali na vuto. Kamba vene mzambo kambira nani. Nzambo mberera, he looks the other way.
So he'll just listen to the elders, but tell them that you were the problem.
Probably not necessarily telling them that I'm the problem. Or he would tell the church elder it is myself that has a problem that I needed to share with the elder.
Brought the problem with the elder.
So as I tell the elder, as I explain my ordeal to the elder in his presence, he was listening just, was facing the other way. Yes.
We've heard of stories of women who are abused, and sometimes they've ended up either committing suicide or even killing the abuser. Did you have any such thoughts? You said you had such mental anguish. Especially he would beat you, strip you naked, beat you, and then want to have sex afterwards.
All I did was to oblige. I told myself, even if he beats me this way, I vowed never to harm even a hair on his body. All I did is I waited for my mentor to settle so that I can be able to leave the abusive marriage. And now, luckily, that time came.
I will get back to you. For those of you who are watching us today, the issue of gender-based violence is real. And if you know anyone, you suspect anyone who might actually be going through this, it is important that you assist them by reporting to the special victims unit at the police or somebody in the community who can be able to assist them. Because sometimes the women are not able to come forward because of various considerations. They have children, they are not economically empowered, and they feel that they probably have to endure, as Ilupupu has told us, that she was trained as a young girl during her initiation, that she had to endure whatever her husband did to her. So let me now move to Grace. You are hearing Ilupupa here describing what she went through.
Yes.
Tell me about yourself. I heard it happen to you as well.
Yes.
Tell me about yourself.
Well, my story is not different from Chipasha's story. I was born in Isoka district,
Isoka.
Isoka. And we moved to the Copperbelt, I think when I should be 3 years to 4 years. And that's where I started school from. I started early. I should have been 4 or 5. I was at Riverside, a primary school, should be a private school then. Yes, and in 2003 we moved to Lusaka. And primary school, I started school at Chilenje Basic School then. It's now a secondary school. And my secondary school, grade 9, I went to Ridgeman Basic School. Secondary school, I did my secondary school at Arkan Girls Secondary School.
And all this time you were living with your parents?
With my father. So my story, like I said, my story is not different from Pasha's story. I am a survivor of sexual gender-based violence. I was sexually abused by my uncle.
Your uncle was living with you
With
at
us,
your home? Is this from your father's side?
From my father's younger brother.
Your father's younger brother?
Yes.
In a traditional sense, your father?
Yes, my father. My father. It all started in the Copperbelt, in Dora.
How old were you then?
Well, as far as I can remember, I should have been 4 or 5.
When your uncle began to abuse you?
Yes, yes. There are times where they would ask him to pick me from school, and my mother was a marketeer then, and it would be the 2 of us at home, and he would just touch me, Well, from the few scenarios I remember, I would just remember him touching me, and when we moved to Lusaka, we moved with him, unfortunately. So we're actually living in the same house. I grew up in a house of my dad had 2 wives. He's a polygamist, by the way. My dad had 2 wives. My mother was the second wife. He had a first wife. The wife died My mother was a second wife. So when we moved to Lusaka, my father married another woman.
So his third wife now.
His third wife now. So we're living as a family in Lusaka, Chalala area. And when we moved to Lusaka, things were not good for my family. I remember my dad was just doing piece jobs. Then in Chalala, it was, how can I put it? Construction. Construction, and my dad was a bricklayer. And also used to do manual jobs here and there.
So things were difficult at
Things
home.
were really, really difficult. And we're living as a family. We're actually more than 10, because there was my brothers, my aunties, and my uncles.
But tell me, this uncle of yours was touching you. Even as a child, you could tell that this was not comfortable.
Yes.
From the Copper Belt to Lusaka, you never told your mother?
So I lost my mother, my biological mother, when I was 6 years old. Just, I think a few months into Lusaka, when we moved to Lusaka, my mother died. And honestly, I would be very honest. If my mother was alive, I would have told her to say, this is what's happening to me. But then I was living with my stepmother.
And you were not close to her?
We were not so close. And then my dad was not always at home. And honestly, it was a bit difficult for me as a child.
How many children were there? Why just you? Was he doing this to other children in the house?
Well, I was the only female child who was a bit older. Because my stepmother had a child, should be 2004, 2005. And my mother left my young brother, should be a week old. So I was the only girl in the house. And we had my aunties who were pregnant, yeah.
So it started when you're about 4 or 5, until up to what?
Until I was 10 years old.
And you still could not tell your father?
I still could not tell my father. At those days, fathers were kind of strict, and my dad was one type of a man who was a no-nonsense man.
You can't even to speak to him.
It wasn't easy. You can't even sit down and say, this is what's going on. And for my stepmother as well, I don't know if she was busy. Well, I can't say she was a bad mother, because I grew up with her, and she taught me a few things here and there, but...
Were you threatened by the uncle to say, don't tell anyone?
Yes, on many occasions.
I see it's making you very emotional to remember it.
It's for me, it's something that when I think about it, I feel very bad, and I fear. I fear for my daughter. I fear for young girls around, because I imagine having such a person in the house.
10 years you must have been at school. You're not able even to tell the teacher?
Well, my teacher really could notice my change in behavior. They noticed because most of the times I wasn't in class. I would always go to school, not enter class, and I would always make all the excuses in the world not to go to school. Because, like I mentioned, we're in Chalala, and those days it was a construction area, and, projects and whatnot, and bushy as well. So most of the times I would fear that maybe I'll even meet him along the road. Because it used to happen when my dad and my mom and my older brother and my aunties have gone to church, like choir practices, in the afternoon or in the evening, and would come and, he really faked it so much that no one could notice. He would buy me toy drinks when going to school. He would bring me biscuits. He would make sure I'm okay. But then he would always tell me, "Ngawalandanka kuipaya."
How old was he? When you were 10, how old was he?
He should have been in his mid-20s.
20s?
Yes.
And he'd say he'd kill you.
Yes, he would kill me. Ngawalandanka kuipaya. And I remember my stepmother asking him a question. Lyonse, Lyonse mlalanda takaka mwana kalameka. Why her?
He used to tell your stepmother that you
would. I'm
a spoiled child.
I grew up. No, really. I grew up. I would always sing. I would always write. I would always find myself doing something, and because obviously I was at a private school then, so I had that, I would always want to, I would always tell myself, I want to be a teacher, and, and you'd always say, "Kaitemo kumekaka," and I remember my stepmother asking her, "Why do you always say that?"
How did it end? Did he go away, or did you finally tell somebody what happened?
like from 4 to 5, 6, it went on different occasions until we started penetrating. At times, it would. Let me explain the setup. Like where we used to stay, unfinished houses in Chalala. So they gave me a room where I used to sleep. So every night would come to my room, and I was a traumatized child because every night I would scream.
And nobody would hear you.
No, but they would hear me after maybe it's gone. And then when they ask me, they used to tell me, Ali do ale nguru. Like,
She's suffering some spiritual
yeah,
disease.
But most of the times I would give them hints like, this is what's going on. He would come, grab me. The time he started penetrating, it's not a good experience. It was something else until I started having sores on my vagina. And I remember when I went to school, my friends would tell me, Grace, matwenzo samba lelo, wenzo sakola sisi. I remember my father being called by my teacher saying, she doesn't look clean, she doesn't look okay. But then it was all, like, okay, maybe it's my stepmother not doing things right.
Job.
Yeah, a good job. But then this day, I couldn't go to school because the pain was too much. I actually went to school then. My teacher told me to go and bath because I was having discharge. I didn't know it was discharge then, but now I was having discharge, sores around my vagina. I couldn't walk properly, and I went back home. So now I was scared that if my father finds me, I'm still home, he's going to beat me. And my mother will probably shout at me or beat me. So I sat behind the house. So when my mother was going to the bathroom, she found me sitting, and I was opening my legs because there was so much pain.
It was too painful.
And then she asked me, finish your Nishta really go school, and I was scared. I was just crying and pointing my vagina. So she took me to the bathroom. When she took me to the bathroom, I remember my stepmother crying and asking me, who did this to you? Nanwak Dave. And then I mentioned the name. Obviously, they had a clue, Somehow, I believe they had a clue. Somehow,
must have known.
They must have known. And yeah, I remember my stepmother bathing me, taking me to the clinic. Then there was a clinic, Chilenje clinic, and honestly, I don't know how to describe it now.
What did your father do when he found out?
Well, they started looking for him. He was working at a certain bar, I remember, within Chilenje, ShopRite, somewhere there. Then he ran away that same day. I don't know if the friends told him, oh, you have done something and they're looking for you. Ever since that day, I've never seen my uncle till death. I hear he's alive, but I don't wish to see him. I hear he's alive somewhere. He once called me some 2 years ago, but every time I hear his voice, I don't even wish to see his face. But he's alive. So it was something that was swept under the carpet. And these are the
family.
This is something that I always discuss with my father. I wish we did something, but probably.
And how old are you now?
I am 27.
And
Yes.
what do you do now?
Well, now I'm working. I volunteer with different organizations. So after the sexual abuse, life went on. As much as it was a bit difficult, life went on. And when I was 17 years old, after secondary school, I got married.
Grace has narrated how she was abused and raped at the age of 6 by her uncle. But her story takes an even worse turn when she got married at 17. Find out more after the break.
You got married at 17?
At 17. I wasn't forced, no. I wasn't ushered into marriage, no. It was a decision that I made to get married.
Did you feel needy maybe because of being abused as a child?
Well, yes.
You felt needy and needed to find somebody to love you so quickly.
Yes, that contributed. So even when I was growing up, I used to have sexual feelings like, like every day, most of the times. And at some point I thought I can be a tomboy because this is not working for me. I started playing football. I started wearing like a boy. I started talking like a boy because I hated boys at some point because feelings were so strong and didn't want to associate with boys. But again, honestly, being sexually oriented at a tender age really affects. Trust me.
Where did you meet the man you married at 17?
Well, I met him. I met him at the time I was at school at Arakan, and he was at NIPA. So yeah.
He was at college.
He was at college.
You got married.
And we got married.
Was it a happy one?
It wasn't a happy one. He was actually 12 years older than me. Then
12
he was
years
30.
older than you.
Yes.
So you're also just another child bride.
Another child bride. Getting married, it was exciting. Oh, I want to get married. I want to help my father. By then, things were really bad. My father wasn't working, but the marriage with my stepmother ended, whatnot. And for me, it was, I really want to help my family. I really want to go back to school. I dropped my grade 12 and I didn't do so well. And I met this guy before, and he was telling me, Grace, you're very smart. I will take you back to school. I'll take care of you. Look, I was showering me with money, showing me money, and for me, I was like, okay, great. I'll be able to go back to school. My main interest was someone to taking me back to school.
What actually happened in the marriage?
So when I got married, I actually discovered I was the third wife, the third woman he was married to.
He was a college student and he had already had two
by
wives.
the time we were getting married in 2014, I completed grade 12 in 2013.
He was at NIPA.
He was at NIPA and completed in 2014 as well, September.
Already two other wives.
Yes. So I was like the third wife. So the first one, I don't know what happened. The second one, he told her to go home because I wanted to concentrate on my studies. So I discovered a lot of issues here and there. And being a young girl, people would always ask me, what are you doing here? But then obviously I was young and naive and wanting to...
Did he beat you?
Yes. I think a year into the marriage, everything changed. I was physically abused. I was emotionally abused, mentally abused. I experienced all forms of gender-based violence. And when I talk of being beaten, I was being beaten. Well, most of the times, I would say maybe I was wrong because I was young. Probably I didn't know how to handle a man. Not even, I wasn't ushered into marriage, so I had no idea of how to take care of a man. So
you came out of it thinking you were to blame. That's why he was beating you.
Most of the times, yes, I would say maybe because of what I was, maybe the way I was answering. But sometimes it was...
But do you think that's an excuse to beat someone?
Yes, that's an excuse, but...
I mean, do you think somebody should beat somebody because they were not answered properly?
No, absolutely no. He used to abuse alcohol and, marijuana and whatnot. So it wasn't a good marriage. It wasn't good.
Do you think you're a survivor now? Do you think you're out of it? Have you had counseling?
Yes, I've had counseling. I am a survivor. And the fact that I had neighbors that really, really were concerned, neighbors that, every time would chase me out of the house like 01, they'll take me in, neighbors that would always come to my rescue, and I had a child by this time. Sometimes they would just lock the door during the day and go without leaving any food at home. Sometimes they would, subjects me to emotional torture, using like words like you're just a prostitute, or
you just be vulgar to you.
You are here because you are destitute. You just want, you're parasites. The good word used to use, you're parasites. That's why you're here.
I'll get back to you to share how you escaped this, but let me get back to Ilipopo. Looking back and your father saying you're going to get married as a child bride, was it maybe, I see you're a bit bigger like me, your stature, was it because maybe you were among your peers, the other children, you looked bigger like a woman and yet you were just 15?
Not necessarily. When growing up, I was just very tall,
small.
Very tall and very lean. Yes.
Okay. Now, let's get back to You have been beaten so many times. You've been stripped naked. You have a child. Nobody's coming to your rescue. How did you leave that marriage?
I left the marriage after getting some tips in there from the peer educators from YWCA in Kauma. When I took my child for under 5 clinic, then there is a brother of mine that lived in Kauma town. So from the under 5 clinic I went there, and then that's how I found those peer educators just having a chat among themselves. And then whatever, they didn't know me. It was just the next year, you know, the village setup. You are here in your traditional yard, the other. So you could overhear people saying, no, the dangers of being a child bride and a child mother, a teen mother, stuff like that. So I really took time to listen to them. And so that's how, after their meeting, I approached them and said, okay, this is my situation here. And then they invited me to their office. They empowered me with the information that I needed, and now it was all upon myself to assert myself and make a decision. So before I could have made that decision, I told myself, oh, I've been through all this because I did not have an education. Okay, fine.
You couldn't leave
I
because
couldn't
you didn't
leave.
know where to go.
I didn't know where to go, and I didn't want to live without an education because that time the only certificate I had was a marriage certificate and a grade 7 certificate, which couldn't have taken me anywhere. So I told myself, I think I need an education. So I told myself I have to endure this beating for this year so that I re-enroll in school. So I re-enrolled.
You said you're going to endure the beating so you can go enroll into school.
Because I needed to get to enroll in school. So the beating I did in the final, I endured in the final year of my marriage because I needed school. If I went back into...
So you enrolled back into grade 9?
I enrolled back into grade 9.
And then?
Was still married. So in that school, because I did not tell my ex to say I've re-enrolled in school, because if I did, he would have beaten life out of me. So I kept it secret. I re-enrolled in school, bought materials, read the materials privately myself, because in that home, the 3 children that I found, there was a child that was doing grade 8. At the time, I re-enrolled in grade 9. So I was like, each time I bought materials, I was like helping this grade 8.
You were acting as if you were helping the grade 8.
So we'd take books, read together. The child didn't know. The father equally didn't know. So I told the school I would not be here due to so problems. And so I only showed up in school when it came
to write the
exams.
So you wrote the grade 9?
I wrote the grade 9 and made it to Kauma Secondary School. So when I made it to Kauma Secondary School, that is how I got to open up and said, oh, okay, all this that I've been doing, all this that I've been enduring has been a very wrong way to do. What if I died? So from that time, he allowed me to go to school. And now, because of my decision of going back to school, he intensified the beatings. So I told myself, this I cannot.
So you were going to school at grade 10 and being beaten as a wife?
Yes. So I told myself, I think I've read through this whole book, cover to cover, I've understood it. I don't really think this person will ever change. Yeah, he's eager to do anything now that I've even started going to school, because he believed that which was hidden in a book, now I was able to read and understand it. I would have been rebellious to him.
So when did you leave?
I left immediately after getting into school.
Grade 10. So
yes.
That's when you left.
Yes.
So who supported you when you left your husband?
I did it wholly alone. The only support I got was the papers that I got from the Victim Support Unity.
But where were you living with your child?
When I left, I went to a relative that lived in Kauma town for my trauma levels to come down. And then that is how I continued with my school. So my leaving, before I left, I involved my relative that lived in Kauma to say, this marriage hasn't been like this. Okay. So all they told me is like, you know what? You've grown up. You are now a woman. You went as a girl into the hands of this man. You are now a woman.
You can make your own decision.
You can make, not necessarily making my own decision of leaving to them. It was uncalled for, because that man had kept them, had kept me. Whenever they came, they were being fed. So to them, that was okay. And now they told me it was a taboo for a woman to file for divorce. They told me in our whole life, in our whole family, even our dead mother, in her family, our father, no woman has ever vowed for divorce due to an abusive marriage.
But did you do it?
I did it. So to them, it was like, me pandesh. It's a taboo, it's uncalled for, you can't do this one. So
Let's
I told
do
them.
fast forward. You finished grade 12. You even went to university.
Yes.
And what did you read at university?
I did Bachelor of Arts with Education. I studied linguistics in African languages and English. Yes.
And what do you do now?
Right now, I'm not as in formal employment. I'm just doing an unpaid intern at some ministry department within Lusaka. Yes.
So you're a 15-year-old girl, a child bride, been abused sexually, physically, mentally, emotionally, a mother, and you had the willpower to say, if I don't get an education,
another person would come and re-abuse me. Yeah.
And for you, after you left that marriage, what happened? You also went to university?
No, after 4 years later, after the marriage ended, I went back home. Well, for me, I didn't go straight to university because due to financial challenges. But hopefully I go to university maybe next year. Now that I'm ready, now that I know that I'm ready. But I have been doing, I have certificates here and there. And
you work with YWCA?
Yes, I've worked with quite a number of organizations and yes. And just
what is your last message to a young woman out there who has been abused, who was a child bride, and they're feeling like you, like, am I defeated? You have to find the willpower to say, I'm alive. What is your message to a girl like that?
Well, my message would be, I know it's not easy, I know it's hard, but if I can be here and talk about certain things and maybe be fluent even how I speak, it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been an easy journey, but, make a decision. Think about your life. If you need yourself and the people around you need you. So the world needs people, brave people like you. Please talk about it. Talk to someone and seek for help. Okay.
And seek for help.
Yes.
Okay. And what would be your message to another young woman out there, a girl listening to you and they're being told they're going to be a child bride? What would be your message to them?
The world we live in now is a changed one. And I agree, I believe each and every girl, almost every person is informed. Do not take the chances to say, because tradition prepared you to be married, please seek help as quickly as could be. For those that are already in these abusive marriages, all I can tell them is, my sisters, suffering is never shared. Don't live your life for people saying, if I'm to leave now, society will judge me. People
Some can't leave because of economic challenges.
They can still make it. If I made it in the village, I made piece of works, working for people in their fields. Yes, I made it in the village. They can make it in Lusaka. They can make it anywhere. They are complete. They don't need a man to validate them. We are a whole complete
An abusive man.
We don't need an abusive man to validate us. We are a complete package on our own, can do things on our own. We mustn't live for people. These same people that laughed at me, they viewed me as an uncultured woman. When I left a marriage, they said, when I left, they laughed. Those that remained in abusive marriage, committed suicide and died, they laughed at their dead body saying, Chipasha went, she's now leading a happier life. They could have left other than dying. So people at every point of life, they would still talk. Remain in abusive marriage, they would talk about you, will be the topic. Leave an abusive marriage, you'll be the topic. All you have to do is to safeguard your life. Exactly. Because everywhere, people laugh. They even laugh at dead bodies. So none is exceptional.
Well, Ilopopo and Grace, I think you're exceptional women. For young Grace, I know it's not easy to share a story like that, but it's because you're being candid that you're going to help other young girls who are going through such issues. And for you, your willpower to take yourself out of that problem all the way to the university, I think it's something that should be truly, truly applauded. And I wish you to, in this month when we're celebrating women, I think this is really what it is about, to hold each other's hands, to share these stories so others can learn from us. So thank you so much for having accepted to share such deep stories about yourselves. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
That was our podcast for today. Two very, very strong women who've been to hell and back, but they are determined that they're going to live their lives to the fullest. It's not getting down that is the problem. It is how to find that willpower to get up. How you get up, that is where the fun and the success should be. So if you are going through any challenges, physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental torture in a relationship, you're not alone. It is important that you find help. The Special Victims Unit at the police, YWCA, and other organizations, it is possible to get help and survive. So thank you so much for having time to join us today. Good night.